Shadow Puppies by Owl Cave Dev. I need to take my mind off things. I need to focus on something right now. And so I'm going to sit here in the glow of my screen and I'm going to tell you a story. I frequently babysit my half-brother and sister. My mum works as a waitress in a 24-hour diner. Often on weekends, she's called in to do night shift work. So, instead of making her pay for a sitter, I drop round and I keep an eye on my siblings. Their dad died 2 years ago. He was killed in an unknown hit and run. He was walking his 2 dogs down a back road and a car drove straight into Mick and his 2 German shepherds. They all died instantly, which I guess that's kind of something. I remember a cop. He joked a few weeks later that it was a shame that one of the dogs hadn't survived because he might have been able to sniff out the culprit, who apparently stopped and got out the car before driving away. I thought the joke was tasteless, to say the least. See, Mick and I, we never got on. Not at all. In fact, we kind of hated each other. I never begrudged Mum for marrying him. He loved his wife and his kids. He just didn't love me. And I didn't love him. We were just a clash of personalities. We could barely stand to be around each other. It came to blows once, you know. Me and Mick. I mean, he was a big tough guy, and he came off better than me. It sucked, but I went off to college, and I still lived nearby as well. I just never came home. But one day I got a call from Mum. Mick was gone. Things were different, and I promised I'd be there for my mum and my siblings. My brother, Sean, he's 3. My sister Jasmine is 6. They coped admirably with Mick's death. Sean was too young to really understand what had gone on, of course, but Jasmine, after the initial period of asking where her daddy had gone, and despite explaining it, she finally came to terms with the fact that he was in fact gone. They seemed to be doing okay. At least I thought. Until yesterday. Due to the loss of their father at a young age, Jasmine and Sean can be conspiratorial. They stick together and they shut out the rest of the world. Dr. Hess told Mum that we should just let them be. Encourage their play sessions together and just keep an eye out for any alarming behaviour. Yesterday, Mum was out at work, so I came over to babysit as normal. After initial bursts of excitement at spending the night with their big bro, Jasmine and Sean had disappeared off upstairs to play. I was in the living room. I was studying. My graduate studies were kicking my actual ass, and any spare time I get, I spend poring over textbooks. I got a bit caught up in the studying and I realised it had gone 7. See, whenever I babysit, the kids have warm milk at 7 p.m. And then we watch cartoons together before bedtime. It's something of a ritual, and they cuddle up with me on the sofa. Jasmine is always on my right, Sean on my left, and not once in the last 2 years have they failed to come downstairs at 7 sharp for their milk. Guiltily, I headed into the kitchen and I put the milk to boil. I called up the stairs to my siblings as I did, and I waited for them to show up, but nothing. I finished heating the milk, and I poured it into mugs, and I carried it to the bottom of the stairs. Jazz, Sean, I called up, straining to listen for the sound of their footfalls, but nothing. I felt a pang of worry. They were sensible kids, but you never know. Without stopping to put the milk down, I made my way upstairs, and I headed into their bedroom. Empty. Down the corridor, I saw the door to the guest bedroom open. The guest bedroom used to be Mick's man cave, but since his death, Mum converted it into a bedroom so I could sleep over when I babysat. Then, when Sean wanted his own room, there'd be a spare one ready and waiting. Light spilled out from the empty room. As I approached, I heard whispered voices. The kids sounded excited. This felt positive. Mum had been trying to encourage them to have their own rooms instead of sharing. Was Sean coming round to the idea of his own bedroom now? I peeked my head through the door. The kids sat on the floor beside a lamp, placed on the carpet between them. The lamp cast eerie glows against the bare wall and sent Sean and Jasmine's shadows skittering and dancing across the ground whenever they shifted. They were leaning over the lamp, whispering. Both seemed fascinated by the halo of light on the wall. I nudged the door open with my knee, balancing the cups of milk in my hands. Jasmine and Sean both turned to look at me. I could have sworn they looked at each other guiltily. "I've got your milk here," I said, raising an eyebrow. "And what happened to our cartoons? You going to stand me up?" Jasmine, she raised a finger to her lips. She was smiling. "Shh. Sorry," I mock whispered, setting down the milk on the chest of drawers. "What you looking at?" Shadow puppies," Sean burbled, his voice cracking high in excitement. Jasmine reached over and tugged on his sleeve. "Shh." I smiled and looked at Jasmine. "Oh, shadow puppets. I used to love playing that as a kid. I could make all sorts of creatures." To demonstrate, I pressed my hands together and I flapped them, emulating a bird. Jasmine frowned at me as if I'd confused her, and then she turned back to the wall. "So, hey, you want to come watch some cartoons?" I asked. Stupidly, I felt left out. Me, 24-year-old guy. Sean turned with an expression of enthusiasm, but his face fell when Jasmine spoke. "No, that's okay." I rolled my eyes, smiling. Jasmine hadn't even taken her gaze off the wall. They could get like that sometimes. It's really not a big deal. "Well, I'll leave your milk here. I'll be back in an hour, and we'll tuck you into bed then. And you better be done playing with your shadow puppies by then." I let the kids stay up half an hour longer than their bedtime. I'd like to say it was because I was being rebellious and cool, but I just lost track of time again. And by the time I hurried up the stairs to tuck them into bed, mindful of Dr. Hess's advice that the kids should stick to a familiar routine, it was after 9. Sean was already yawning as the pair made their way to the bathroom after brushing their teeth. By the time I got Jasmine into bed, her brother was already snoring lightly. I took Jasmine in and then kissed her forehead. I reached over to turn out the light. Jasmine's small hand darted out and caught my wrist. My heart sank. Mum and I was always pleased that they never had a fear of the dark, and Dr. Hess says it was a really good sign. "No?" I asked. "You want me to leave the light on?" "Uh-huh," Jasmine responded, almost shyly. "It's okay to be scared," I said, trying to hide the sadness in my voice. "If you're scared, we can talk about it." Jasmine gave me a look that suggested impatience. "I'm not scared," she said curtly. I felt like I'd been scolded. "Okay, well, that's fine too," I said. We were aware of the pride of a 6-year-old. "Why don't you want the light off then?" "Because the shadow puppies won't come out if the light's off," she said. I sat on the edge of the bed. "The shadow puppies, huh? You're supposed to be sleeping, not playing," I said teasingly, booping Jasmine on the nose. Jasmine didn't smile. "I'm not playing," she said. "The shadow puppies need the light and the darkness to come. Stupid. They're shadows, duh." "Jazz, what have I said about being rude?" I asked her calmly. Jasmine sighed. I'm sorry. I stood up and I stroked her hair. It's fine. You're just tired. Sleep well. I jolted awake. My textbook fell from my lap. I had drifted off on the couch. The clock read midnight. A pale, sickly light emanated from the TV, displaying static. I frowned. Had the cable died? As I moved to stand up, I smelt a strange odour. I sniffed once, twice. Was something burning? No, not burning. Something had burnt. You know, like the smell of a campfire the next day. All charcoal and ash. Something musky. I jumped as a flash of movement caught my eye. It was over the entrance of the kitchen. Dancing in the shadows cast by the light of the TV, I think. Another movement, this time by the bay window. I whirled around. Outside, the street sat silent and empty. I thought I saw more movement. It was in the glow of one of the street lamps outside by the Richardson's hedge. Beside me, I heard a click. A clicking sound. A familiar sound. I'd heard it many times as a teen. Back when Mick's awful, loud dogs were still alive. They had the run of the place. It was the tapping of claws on hardwood. I froze, staring in the reflection in the front window. These animal footsteps, they got closer to me. I heard a scrape. Something knocked against the coffee table. The television's white static wavered on the glass. I let out a tiny shriek as the reflection appeared and then disappeared, as if something large and black had just passed in front of the TV. I whirled around. I tasted copper in my mouth, my breath catching in my throat. The footsteps, they stopped. The room was empty. Then, over by the kitchen, a scrabbling sound, and then a low growl, deep, menacing. The kind of sound a dog makes, a kind of sound that lets you know you're in his territory, and he's giving you that one single warning to get out. I began to edge forward. My own safety went secondary to identifying this animal. I had to reach my brother and sister. I had to lock us in a room. I had to call the police. The area leading into the kitchen was empty too. I tiptoed closer, using the light from the TV, to look for something. Anything. I needed a weapon. I needed to defend myself. Whatever this animal was, I couldn't see a sign of it. I could, however, hear that clicking, the claws. They were coming from the kitchen. Silently, I crept past, holding my breath, my heart hammering in my chest. I went out the living room, through the hallway, up the stairs. Growling sounds seemed to be coming from all the rooms downstairs, like the animal was moving around at lightning speed. I got the irrational feeling that I was being taunted by this unseen beast. Was it even there? I heard a scratch, a snarl, a scrabble, movement out the corner of my eye. I turned. Nothing. I crept up the stairs. 1, 2, 3. I skipped the 4th step. It creaks. Up, up. I was a few stairs from the top. I froze. The door to the children's room was open. Faint light spilled out from it. A shape passed across the light, blotting it out for a second. I could make it a shape in the darkened hallway. It was coming towards me. I caught a shimmery outline of fur, matted, black. I could smell that creature now. I could feel its breath. It was on my face. I could hear the low rumble in its throat. I couldn't see it. I felt like it was right in front of me and I couldn't see it. Darkness. Just darkness. It was as if the creature existed in the space between darkness and light. It was so close I could have reached out and touched it. I let out a whimper. The unseen animal, it growled. I froze. I had nothing to defend myself with. The creature's earthy breath just flooded my nose. Behind me at the bottom of the stairs, another snarl, telling me I was surrounded. I was trapped. And I was about to die. Up ahead, the door to the kids' room creaked open further. My eyes widened. Jasmine! No! She was there by lamplight. I could see her. She was rubbing her eyes sleepily. I opened my mouth to scream, tell her to get back inside, shut the door, barricade it, whatever she could. But before I could say a word, Jasmine pursed her lips and gave a sharp, practiced, shrill whistle. I heard a snarl, an angry, guttural snarl that vibrated through my whole body. My stomach churned. A gust of air, something whooshed past me. I swayed. I reached out to grab the banister to stop myself from falling. As I did, I saw movement ahead of me, an impossible warping of the darkness, glimpses of fur, a flash of silvery eyes. Footsteps thundered, and the light around Jasmine was displaced. Then everything was calm. Jasmine stood there, staring at me, looking mildly annoyed. When Jasmine had finished using the bathroom, I took her back to bed. My whole body was shaking, my mouth was dry. I felt like I was in a daze. There were no animals. There couldn't have been. Where were they now? Had I been studying too hard? Was I half asleep? I didn't know. Jasmine climbed beneath the covers. My trembling legs finally gave out, and I collapsed into a sitting position on the edge of Jasmine's bed. Sean was kneeling up. He stared at me. He looked wide awake, and I felt small, warm hands. They rested on my arm. I turned and looked at Jasmine, who was regarding me with a serious expression. "I don't think you better come here anymore," she said, her voice cold. "The shadow puppies, they think you're a bad person. They don't like you." My eyes widened. I turned to Sean. He shook his head. His expression was just sadness. "They don't like you at all." I went back downstairs. I couldn't settle. I couldn't focus. I couldn't stop shaking. I called my mom, told her I was sick. She came home from work early. She felt my forehead and said I seemed peaky. She asked if I wanted to stay over. Of course, I didn't. I drove home. I just wanted to get as far away from the shadow puppies, real or imaginary, as possible. There was no way they could follow me, I thought. Hell, even Jasmine and Sean didn't know exactly where I lived. They'd never even been here. So tonight, I sit here with every light in my apartment blazing, and darkness falls outside. I don't know how to stop the shadows from creeping in. With the lights off, I smell that smell, that burnt scent. I hear that tap, tap, the tapping of claws. With the lights on, the movement starts. In the shadows. I figured if I stare at this screen, if I don't look around, if I don't react, I'll be safe. I don't know. I can hear them. They're pacing around the apartment behind me right now. Stalking, snarling, scratching. I thought that back here, in my own home, it'd protect me. I thought I could hide. I was wrong. They can move between shadows. They knew exactly where to come. They knew where to find me after all this time. That's the problem with dogs. They can track your scent.